Whoa, hello, hello, hello. What is up? And it is time to breathe again on the Breath of Fresh Air, Shorty on YouTube. How are you guys doing? I am your host for today's Shorty, and we have a lot to go through. I only have time for one of the topics, but there's a lot going on in sports today. We have the NBA playoffs that started today. Of course, we have the NHL playoffs that are going right now, and just a lot going on. Baseball, of course, is still going on. And like I said, there's a lot that I would like to talk about. It's been a while since I have been on a Shorty, so it is good to be back on a Shorty. We are still tracking to do the live show on Tuesday night, get back to our normal spot. And I do plan to have Patrick Brackett back with me for that webcast. But let's dive into some of this stuff and primarily the future of college sports. So we have seen conferences cancel fall sports for the fall. And it started with the MAC, the Mid-American Conference. More on them in a minute. But the Big Ten and the Pac-12 conferences, they each canceled fall sports for the year too. So this is significant for obvious reasons. Of course, these two conferences are two of the Power Five conferences, the other three being the SEC, the ACC, and the Big 12. But when you look at how things break down, like I said, sports is part of life. It's not life itself. But when you look at how things go down in life, it seems to be two things in particular that drives decision making in any walk of life, not just sports. That is one, money, of course, obviously. And number two, public outcry. And what exactly is the popular thing to do at that time? So with the Big 12, or excuse me, with the Big Ten and the Pac-12 canceling their seasons, there seems, look, there's obvious money that was being lost anyway. And here's where I'm going with this. Now, I mentioned the Mid-American Conference. They had canceled their season as well. With the Mid-American Conference, think about this. When the Big Ten and Pac-12 decided they were going to go to conference-only scheduling, so this was a week or two ago, when they decided they were going to go to that type of scheduling, that really hurts the Mid-American conferences, or the Mid-American Conference and other conferences that are around that same level as the MAC. It's because what happens is those conferences, those mid-major conferences, they depend on the money they get from making trips to the Power Five conference schools. The MAC plays a lot of games with the Big Ten Conference, and the majority of those games are going to the other teams, the other team stadiums in the bigger conferences. There's big paydays that come from that, and yeah, they might get beat 54-20 or whatever the score may be, but because they are getting that money from it, that helps them build other facilities around their campuses, whether that's a new athletic center, whether it's a new opera house, whether it's a new cafeteria for the students to eat at, whatever it may be. They depend on that money from what they got from going to those big schools to help build up their own campuses. Now, once that got taken away from them, the Mid-American Conference decided to cancel. Now, yes, they're going to put out a statement and say, well, it was because of COVID concerns. It was because we didn't want our kids and our students getting infected. That sounds good on the exterior. And I'm not saying that didn't have anything to do with it, but I'm pretty sure, as harsh as this is going to sound, I'm pretty sure if the Big Ten and the Pac-12 did not cancel their seasons or cancel fall sports for their respective conferences, I don't think the Mid-American Conference would be canceling theirs. That's all I'm saying. Because if They knew they could find a way to put a season together. They could find a way to play football, which is in the majority of these schools the biggest money maker for those schools. Then they would have not canceled their seasons. But here they are canceling their seasons, and they're going to use COVID as a cover. And to me, that's what it sounds like. It's a cover. Again, not saying COVID did not have anything to do with their decision making. I'm not saying it didn't come into their equation, but if you're asking me, money is the big factor as to why they canceled those seasons. So now I get to the public outcry of it all. And I think what happens with the whole COVID thing is a lot of people do start to use that as a cover. And I do believe this had a little bit to do with the Big Ten and the Pac-12 deciding they were going to cancel their seasons. It's turning into a big mess as expected because there are a lot of people who depend on college football. So now you have the individual schools, some of the players from the individual schools putting together petitions to say, hey, look, we want to play. We want to play football. But it's a mess just simply because you have to justify, if you're a school, you have to justify how you can let, and I've said this on Shorties and on webcasts before, you have to justify how it's okay to play college athletics, but you still don't have a lot of your students even attending the campuses to go to school. If you are the NCAA, if you're any of these colleges, you continuously feed us with the BS about you being about the student athlete. Again, that's BS to me because you are about the athletic student, not the student athlete, not the other way around. Why I say the athletic student is because the athletics is what brings in all the money, the billions and billions of dollars in revenue that comes from TV deals, that comes from merchandise sales and everything else that ties in to the events that are put down, let alone all the money that comes from the two huge money makers in college athletics, the college football playoff and March Madness in basketball. So COVID it's been in the news obviously for months now. And when college athletics get canceled, that's the cover that's being used because that's the hot topic right now. So they'll say, well, because of COVID concerns, we're going to cancel this sport. Because of COVID concerns, we're going to cancel that part, that sport. But it's money. And I think that has to be looked at. That is a factor, regardless of what these conferences or these schools will put out there for you. It is about the money. And it's all about the money, as they say. But that is to me, that's the number one factor. And when you're losing money, now you can come back and say, you know, I just can't do this because of this, that, and the third, this particular concern. But nobody wants to come out and say what it's really about because it would make them look bad in the public. And to me, if you're honest with yourself, if you come out as a school and as a conference and say, hey, listen, I understand there are some concerns about COVID, but really, I mean, we have some huge losses that are happening. Now, a school, or excuse me, a league that came out and canceled their season today, or maybe it was a few days ago, but I think it was today, was the Canadian Football League. They went ahead and they canceled their season and they cited financial losses. So what I bring up the CFL because they're coming out and saying, hey, look, we're losing a lot of money here, so we might as well cancel the season. If you are honest from the start, nobody is going to mess with you at that point. It's all about being honest with yourself. If you come out and you just admit what's going on, then there shouldn't be any problems. Yeah, you might catch a little bit of flack because it looks like you're just about the money, but at least people know you're about the money and you're being consistent about it instead of trying to use COVID as a cover. And again, I want to stress again before I wrap up, I don't think it's to the point where COVID was not a concern at all. I'm not trying to say that. I'm not trying to have them sound insensitive. But if you're going to cite that as the number one concern, that's to me garbage because it's about the money. It's always about the money. So I guess the theme of this shorty is it's about the money. Well, that's what I'm breathing on for today. Y'all make sure y'all check out this shorty and other shorties and webcasts on the Breath of Fresh Air YouTube channel and smash that subscribe button. Also keep the likes coming on the Breath of Fresh Air Facebook page. And like I said, we plan on coming back with the live webcast on Tuesday night at 8 Central, 9 Eastern. So until then, it's good to be back. Glad to be back on the shorty. And I look forward to seeing you guys on Tuesday night. Take care and happy Monday.